Where do you think all success starts with?
Well, the fast answer is mindset. Going back to the only belief that matters, you said it. It's the way you act is ultimately all that matters, and the way you act follows what you allow yourself to believe. Or maybe a better way to say it is what you choose to believe. Mm-hmm. So if you choose to believe that your energy and efforts will result in more skill set, then you will actually put energy and effort into getting that, which means you actually will get the skill set. But if you think, well, my talent and intelligence are fixed, so no matter how much I work, I'm never going to get better, right? I can't be a fast pig. Mm-hmm. And if you don't think that putting time and energy into it will yield anything, then you won't put time and energy into it, and you thusly won't get the skills. So, and if you don't have the skills, then you can't do the things other people can do, and so people just get stuck because they don't have the only belief that matters. So they don't put the time and energy. And so that's like where everything starts is, are you putting the time and energy into getting better, yes or no?
Need motivation? Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tom Bilyeu, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, surround yourself with the right people.
I think that the only thing that matters are results. And if you aren't getting the result that you want, then you're not making the right decision. Mm-hmm. Surrounding yourself with people who act in a way that's going to lead you to the goals that you want to get to that's it. I so believe that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. How could you not be? It's like you're going to be surrounded by those ideas. You're going to feel good about yourself because they're going to praise you for things. And if they're praising you for working your ass off, for admitting a mistake, that turns you into one kind of person. If they're praising you for smoking a J or for playing an extra hour of video games or for, hammering that Mountain Dew or jumping in on some cake with them, it's like, well, then you're going to go down that path because it's rad. And we are social creatures, man. And you want to please and inspire the people that you're around. And so change your circle, it will change everything about your life. And they've done crazy studies on this. If your friends on Facebook, not even your real life friends, if your friends on Facebook are obese, you're more likely to become obese. It's nuts. So you're going to morph depending on the ideas that you surround yourself with. And that's why I'm such a voracious reader, because I spend way more time with writers than I do even with my friends, just because, the sheer amount of time I dedicate to reading.
Rule number 3, acquire skills.
How did you start? Like, do you have to have a certain mindset, or like, what are the steps in becoming successful?
Well, Michaela, I'm very glad that you said mindset. So, yes. I don't believe that people are born or, sort of meant to be anything. I think that we are, as humans, the ultimate adaptation machine. And there's no question we're not blank slates. So everybody's going to have certain things that they're good at, that they get what I call disproportionate returns. So for me, that's always been verbal ability. If I put time and energy into extemporaneous speaking, I'm going to get bigger rewards than maybe somebody else. But at the end of the day, I definitely was not a born entrepreneur. And so my goals mandated that I get good at business. And therefore, I put a bunch of time and energy into getting good at business. So for anybody out there who is a budding entrepreneur that it may be daunted by the idea that, I'm never going to be as good as Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk or, somebody who was born an entrepreneur. I will just say that my favorite quote, and I say this all the time now, is you can't make a racehorse out of a pig, but you can make a really fast pig. So even if you don't have natural entrepreneurial instincts, which I do not, you can still build a big and thriving business. So it really is about skill set. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to first figure out what is the reason that your company exists, what's its mission, its purpose, and then what skill set will you need in order to fill that. And I will just say at the highest level, if somebody wants to be a CEO type entrepreneur, you really have to have the ability to create momentum. Now, to me, momentum is all about not just moving quickly. It's about getting a large group of people pointed in the same direction and moving quickly. So there's going to be a lot of leadership stuff. There's going to be finance. There's going to be organizational structure, but it's all skill set. So if people are willing to march down the path of learning how to do that, that's going to be the first step. But I would just say, decide what your product is, take action immediately, make a lot of mistakes, truly mistakes are going to teach you what you need to learn. And as long as you're not paralyzed by the fact that you aren't yet good enough to do what you want to do, and that's going to be a process, then you'll be fine. But you've got to get yourself moving. And obviously we could go on and on and on for hours. I'll leave it at that. And if there's a thread you want to pull on, I can go deeper on any of that stuff.
Rule number 4, chase your goal, not money.
If you have a $1 million business, you want to get it to 10 million. What's the best way to distribute your time between marketing, training your employees, developing yourself?
All right, everybody, what does this start with? Clarity of your goal. So what's your goal?
$10 million a year.
That's just money. How are you going to get there? Why are we just chasing money?
Yes.
Sell drugs. You might go to jail, but damn, on the way up, baby. You can make some money. The next best thing, crypto, then flipping NFTs, but you can go broke real fast doing that. But damn, if you hit, I made $100,000 in 48 hours on a single NFT that I bought for $250. Not financial advice, let me tell you. But those are really dumb ways. Crypto's not dumb. But those are like really sort of roll the dice, bet it all on black ways. If all you care about is money, it will send you down a very dark path that I'm not super helpful at. Once you have a goal and there's like a thing behind you, but even setting all that aside, I will just say you have to be in an industry where the upside potential is big enough that you could actually solve a problem. Remember, this starts with, I'm solving a problem for somebody who knows they need that problem solved, and then I'm going to go solve it better than anybody else. That's the real answer. But if I could change your life, because this will matter so much, business is a game of attrition. Most people give up. Why do they give up? Because hard things suck. So, when you have a hard thing, who has read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl? Is that really it? Scream that out if you've read it. Okay, this is the most important thing I will say to you, literally, in this whole talk. Every single person in this room, if you are serious about enjoying your life, read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It is about a guy who survived the concentration camps. He happened to be a neuroscientist, and what he realized was you could predict when someone would die within 72 hours because they would lose a sense of meaning and purpose. Now, if you can survive Auschwitz on meaning and purpose alone, let me tell you how important meaning and purpose is in a business. Because as hard as building a business has been, it's no Auschwitz. So, trust me when I say meaning and purpose will get you through. When I was building Quest, it was all about saving my mom and my sister. That was what I attached to it. And so when I was there at 2 a.m. on a Friday night with bloody knuckles fixing a piece of equipment that I did not want to be fixing, I would think of my mom and my sister. I would not think of $10 million because nature has compelled me to think of them in a way, and I get an emotional reward I won't get from anything else. So even if you're just going to chase the 10 million, make it about your kids, giving them a better life or something. But think about that other something. We good?
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, focus on your dreams.
When I really think about what's the impact I want to have on the world, it's to show people that it does not matter where you are today. It only matters who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And it makes me sad for other people that they think that I have some natural talent and that they then let themselves off the hook because of that. Because let me tell you, when I was laying in bed 4 hours a day, every day in the morning, I didn't feel talented. I'll just tell you that. Like, I felt like a loser. Social media didn't exist. There was no way for me to reach out to people and connect with these thought leaders. You could get Tony Robbins tapes and books and stuff, and that's what I did. But it's like, man, that's a pretty far cry from where things are today. And so I I felt so hopeless and so lost and just unsure of how I was going to make anything in my life. And so for people to be like, oh, well, easy for you to say you have XYZ talents. Like, really, truly, I do not. I had zero instincts as an entrepreneur coming into it. I was a buffoon, fell on my face, embarrassed myself. I was just stupid beyond all imagining.
Rule number 6, feel good by yourself.
When my voice coughs up, you're just not smart enough to pull this off. I say, all right, cool. That's a habit loop trigger to remind myself that all that really matters is skill acquisition. Have I reached the limit of my ability to acquire skills in the area that I need to move forward? If the answer is yes, go hire somebody. If the answer is no, then keep pushing my skill set, because I don't value myself anymore for being smart. So realizing that I'm never going to be the smartest person that ever lived, sad but true, that it doesn't damage my sense of self-worth. And that becomes really important, though, when you think about, so I always try to tell people this, the point of life isn't money. As somebody who chased money for a very long time, I can assure you, won't touch how you feel about yourself as much as you think it might. So money's not going to help you. Fame isn't going to help you. Accolades aren't going to help you. None of that is going to change the one thing that matters, which is how do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? That matters. Your entire life is about that question. And once you stop valuing yourself for being smart and you value yourself for the sincere pursuit of greatness or excellence, or just translating that potential into actual skill set, then, look, you still have ups and downs in life. Things are going to be hard. There's going to be emotional turmoil, all that. But man, can you get back to center really, really fast.
Rule number 7, find your passion.
When people are truly passionate about what they do, you just get a chemical rush. You get the energy. You become more resourceful. When someone who doesn't have passion because they don't really want to be there anyway, they will give up way easier because they're not having a good time. It's not in them. And there's an awesome quote, I'm paraphrasing, but you'll get the idea. Don't try to change the world unless you seek change the way a man whose head is on fire seeks a pond. That is so true. Like, imagine what that would be like, right? Your head is literally on fire. Your ass is going to find some water. You will mash your head into the side of a rhino if you have to put it out, right? Like, you're putting it out. There is an immediacy to that need that gets humans to do incredible shit. If you want to change your life, you've got to tap into something that gives you that same feeling. For me, it's passion. And for the people that I've seen that have that passion, something is burning inside of them. Wow, man, you can do incredible stuff. Now the follow-up, I'll ask my own follow-up question. Well, how do you find that thing that you're passionate about? Since I know that's the next question that people ask. In you right now is the ember of something you don't want to admit to yourself. I promise you. And if you let me interview you long enough, I will get to that thing. And you will resist me trying to get to that thing for a very long time. First, you'll give me a bullshit answer. First, you're going to tell me that you want to be happy. That's useless. I need to know what makes you happy. I need to know how you plan to be happy. Okay? When people say generically that they want to be happy, they might as well tell me that they want a hit of meth, because they're just saying I want a chemical state. Great. It's transient. It's going to go away. That's not very useful for you. Then once we get past that you want to be happy, you're going to guess at some random things that make you happy. I want to be around my family, all that. Okay, well, let's put that in context. You're here seeking a job, or you're asking me a question about being an entrepreneur, and you're telling me that the thing that makes you happy is being with your family. I can't help you with that. In fact, I'm going to do the exact opposite. If I do my job, I'm pulling you all away from your family all the time. I'm trying to get you to commit so deeply to what we're trying to accomplish here that you're going to be absent just from a physical time perspective. And my only hope is that I light you on fire with so much passion that I send you back to your family full of joy, optimism, and a vision for you being able to do anything you want. Now that's infectious. Your family will love you for it, and they'll push you right back into my loving arms. But that's still not the truth. That's me feeding you answers. So once we get past that and we paint that picture, we finally get to I don't know, which is the truth that lies on top of the better truth that I'm going after, which is that thing underneath that you never thought you were able to acknowledge, that is the thing that you really want. And for me, it was finally admitting that I didn't have to wait for my family to make good choices. I could find a way to trick them into eating healthy. Once I honestly accepted that that's what I wanted, that I was not prepared to wait, that I was going to be a Jedi. I was going to walk up to somebody and I was going to get them to do things that was quite literally against their will. And I was going to make them want to do it. And it was going to be better for their life. And they were ultimately going to thank me. And I was going to do it without any force at all. I was going to do it by understanding them as a human being, by attaching myself to the things that were already working for me, their biological impulse to eat something that they crave, their biological impulse to soothe themselves with food. I knew, I've got all that. I know those levers are there. So now I just have to do the hard work of making something that's actually good for them that has all of those taste pathways.
Rule number 8, optimize your daily routine.
How have you structured your life? Do you have a morning routine? Like, how do you make time for things? How do you figure out what to do?
Well, like you, it is a bloodbath of the number of things that I want to do versus the number of things that I'm able to do. There's a gross discrepancy that I find emotionally distressing. And whenever I contemplate, like, whoa, you could actually look at my life and say, given how long each of the projects you care about takes, you're only going to get 7 more of them or whatever the number is done. That is heartbreaking in a way I can't explain. I try to turn away from that fact at all times. But what I do to get the most out of everything is, yes, I have a morning routine, but the morning routine starts the night before. So I'm doing everything I can to cognitively optimize. That's the first thing. So I get as much sleep as my body will take. I eat right. I exercise. I meditate. And that's basically my daily routine. And then maybe more importantly is I always have a list of the important things that I should be working on so that I'm never losing time to thinking about what should I be working on. So when one of those narrow windows open, I have in order exactly what I should be working on. I also have a vision for the company and my life, what I'm trying to accomplish. And so I know, well, these projects align with that. These projects do not. So I get offers all the time to, join the boards of companies or whatever that I'm sure are going to go on to be wildly lucrative, but they do not align with what I have stated I want to accomplish with my life. I know what the mission of my life is. I also know how I plan to sort of logistically accomplish that mission. And so I just filter every yes or no decision through. Does this move me towards my goals? And so one of the edicts in my life is I only do and believe that which moves me towards my goals. And I'm super ruthless about that.
Rule number 9, make a challenge.
What was the greatest fear in the last 5 years that you had to overcome that has now become a skill or a superpower for you?
I think the only thing that I've sort of thought through like that is I feel like Kobe Bryant when he split from Shaq. And it was like he obviously had won a championship with Shaq, but could he win a championship on his own? Mm-hmm. And so my last company was so successful, but huge. I did it with two partners. And so now to have a new partner in Lisa, it's like, okay, can I also lead this team to a championship? And so that drives me in a way that I find so fun of like, okay, cool. Hey, as a part of that group, smashed it. But can I do it over here?
Yeah.
So that like reinvention, trying things and letting myself feel the weight of like, hey, you gotta prove it, buddy. Like,
right.
You had a big success once. Can you do it again?
Wow.
And so doing that under new circumstances, to me, like, I love that. Like, I love the excitement of, can I? Will he? Won't he? So that's a lot of fun. But that's something that I think if I thought about the world differently, so I don't value myself for achieving it. So whether I achieve it or not is irrelevant. But showing up every day and sincerely pursuing it is what I value myself for. And I like to feel that sort of weight of like, hey, maybe you won't. Maybe you're going to fail. Maybe like it was only you as a part of this collective. Hey, you did a great job there. Or maybe it was just that moment in time. Yeah. Like you rode a wave. But like over here, can you create something from scratch? Can you repeat it? Yeah, that it's not. I don't live in a space of letting that be a fear.
Sure.
But it's like it's a cousin of that feeling. I think
it's a stepsister or something. Yeah.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is love your work.
My average week is probably 90 hours, 85 to 90 hours is my average. I routinely pop over 100 if something really has to get done. The key is to structure your life in such a way that the work is joyful. So the reason that when my wife and I exited our last company, we never needed to work again, ever. I mean, just never had to think about money again. And we thought, okay, what we want to do though is really do something that gives us meaning and significance. So let's build something. If we're going to work when we don't have to, let's make sure that what we build is something that fills us in ways that we can't explain. And for me, storytelling has always been just a calling. I love it so much. And I cannot tell you how much I love writing. So Jeff Bezos very aptly said that in any job, no matter how much you love it, there's a certain amount of overhead, things that you don't like doing. So Monday through Friday, I'm doing my overhead. When I work on the weekends, with precious few exceptions, it's never overhead. It's writing, it's editing a story, it's looking at concept art, it's, doing things that have to be done for the business, but also in and of themselves, I find so energizing and exciting that it's arguably the best way that I could spend. That's why I do it during my selfish time. So my wife and I take selfish time. She draws. She's a world-class artist, absolutely breathtaking. And I will write or do something around the stories. And that to me is incredible. So it's a lot of hours for work, but like they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So that's how I'm able to hit the kind of crazy numbers that I hit, or the number of books that I read. It's like, I love that shit. It lights me on fire. I'm excited to do it. I'm not trudging through it.
As Daniel Pink said, people fail to achieve mastery not because they aren't talented, but because they aren't disciplined. The wonderful news about the human condition is you can get good at anything that you set your mind to. It's just not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fast. But the willingness to put in that work is what's going to separate you from everybody else. And I'm begging you to see yourself right now, today, as average, as no better than anyone else. But I beg you, with more force than I know how to convey with this language, to see yourself as malleable, to see yourself as capable of becoming anything you want to become truly extraordinary, if you can find within yourself the discipline to stick with it long enough. And as Steve Martin said, perseverance is a great substitute for talent. Everybody wants to talk about who's talented. Everybody looks at the person with innate talent as if they have something magical. But to me, it's a gift, it's a handout, it's a freebie. It hasn't been earned. And no matter what it is, it's only the beginning. Even somebody that has talent, even if you get an early win, if you let somebody outwork you, if you let somebody who has more perseverance, more grit than you, then they are going to outperform you on a long enough timeline. The only thing I can guarantee is you will be outworked by somebody unless you pour your heart and soul into getting great. If you don't take days off, if you put yourself into it as if your life depended on it, when you act like that, then you've got a chance to be great. And as Robert Horry said, pressure can bust pipes, but it can also make diamonds. You've got to want that pressure. You've got to want things to be hard. You can't seek out the easy life. You can't just hope and pray that you can uncover inside of you some talent that's laid dormant that you didn't know about, that's going to let things be easy for you. Don't want the easy. Want the hard. Want the pressure. Want the thing that's going to turn you into something. Because when it's easy, you don't work for it. When it's easy, you don't push. When it's easy, you get surpassed by the person who has to give it their all, who's prepared to do blood, sweat, and tears in order to become that thing that they want to be so badly, because they are so angry that they were never given anything. And with that chip on their shoulder, they're determined to become anything that they set their mind to. So whether you have talent, whether you don't, the only thing that matters is, will you persevere? Will you stick with it long enough to get great? Some things you build whether you can control the outcome or not. Sometimes it's the process that is the thing that's meant to be enjoyed. It's the process that you're meant to invest in. And rather than always thinking about the goal, the outcome, or what you're going to get out of something, focus on the something. Focus on the part of it that you can control, because you can't always control the outcome. You can't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow's not guaranteed to any of us, and yet we all act. And yet we create momentum in our lives when we're at our best. But we do that not because we can control every aspect. We do that because we accept that there are things that we cannot control. And as Steve Maraboli said, incredible change happens in your life when you decide to take control of what you do have power over, instead of craving control over what you don't. And that's where a lot of people get lost. They focus not on what they have in their hands, they focus instead on the things that they can't control. It irritates them, it frustrates them, it's like a splinter in their mind. They can't stop thinking about the things that they don't have control over. And they're blinded to the incredible wealth that is around them of things that they could enjoy right here, right now. That's why gratitude is such an empowering practice, to sit there and not think of the glorious things may await you in your future, but rather to think about the things that you have here in this moment. Oxygen in your lungs, a simple breeze on your face, a window in your house, someone that you love, someone that loves you. Nothing that costs money, nothing that was the pot of gold at the end of a glorious rainbow. It's not even about becoming something extraordinary and waiting for the results of that. It's simply understanding that the one thing you can control are your actions today, the choices that you make, what you get to do, how you think about yourself, the beliefs you choose to bring into your life. Those things you control. And when you understand the power in acknowledging that control and taking control and using it, that's when your life is going to begin to change. But first, you have to divorce yourself from being obsessively interested only in an outcome. If instead you build your self-esteem, you build your pride on pursuit. You build your pride on allowing yourself to care about something so deeply that even though tomorrow is not guaranteed, that you're going to plant your apple tree today, that you're going to love that process because it is the thing that you can control. You can control how you show up. You can control how you play. You cannot control how other people react. You cannot control what they think about you. But you can control what you think about yourself. Everyone takes the limits of their own vision for the limits of the world. Arthur Schopenhauer. There is all around you right now the reflections of your world belief. They're so ever present that you don't even see them. All the assumption that you've made about the world, the things that are possible, what you're capable of, who you are, the very definition of what it means to be alive, all of it is completely invisible. And you're mistaking what you have for what could be. And once you break free of that, once you understand that right now you're a moment in time and that you have latent potential, and that latent potential can be expressed in the form of skills, that you can get good at things, that you can develop yourself in any direction, that brain plasticity alone is one of the greatest weapons that you're not using. But you have to move beyond what you can perceive today. You have to begin to look beyond that and see that which doesn't yet exist. And you have to remember that many of the things that are holding you down are rules that you don't even realize are rules. And as General Douglas MacArthur said, you're remembered for the rules you break. And right now, you're following rules that you don't even realize exist. And some of those rules are simply what is okay to dream. But I'm here to tell you, the power is in recognizing that you can do it. The power is in having the arrogance of belief. The power is in understanding that you, yes, you are going to be capable of something simply because you are willing to believe in yourself. And that's the thing, it's a willingness to believe in yourself. No one's going to give it to you. Even the people that love you, they're not going to give you that. They are incapable of giving it to you. People cannot see past their limitations, and they take them for truth. People actually believe the things that have stopped them will forever not only stop them, but they will stop other people. How can they hope to give you anything but limitation? So if you know that even the people that love you, what they're handing you is limitation with the best of intentions, with all the love in the world, how are you going to break out of that? How are you going to break past those rules? How are you going to fight the anxiety that inevitably comes your way when you think about going against the grain? But my friends, until you can do that, you can never get beyond the bullshit that limits you. If people said gravity is what it is, we never would have reached escape velocity. And yet, as a species, we have been able to hurl a rocket into space, get it outside of gravity, take us to other planets. That is real only because somebody said, I refuse to be held down by the most obvious rule that we have, the one that everybody says is beyond reproach, and that is gravity. But even gravity will break under the weight of a superior will. So recognize, as Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Can you be content to be thought foolish and stupid? Or do you allow yourself to be caged, to be hemmed in by what other people think. And look, I get it. I understand the sting of contempt. I understand how much it sucks when someone you respect doesn't respect you. But you cannot be anything more than their captive if you think about what they think about you. If you let yourself be defined by what other people perceive of as you, then you will forever be limited by what they give you permission to do. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I said, when I'm an adult, I will never be told what to do again. I will never be held back by somebody else. I will define myself. I will figure out what I need to do, and I will do it. And at the end of the day, that is it. My goals drive my behavior. I am not held back by what other people think about me, no matter how intoxicating it is to be loved. You have to decide what you want more. Do you want to be you, or do you want to be someone else's reflection of you?
What steps did you take to separate business growth from personal growth? I often find myself confused on which one to grow, but I do know that if you don't grow, your business won't grow either. Any tips? So for me, they're inextricably connected. And my advice to anybody, whether you're a linchpin employee or whether you're an entrepreneur, there should not be any difference between yourself as a person and what you're doing as a job. You spend 50% of your waking hours at your job. 50% of your waking hours are at your job. So, and that's assuming, I think I did the math at like a 40 or 50 hour work week. So if you work as much as I do, where it's like 90 hours, sometimes more, then it's like, okay, at some point, like if there is a difference between who you are as a person, the things you want to learn and grow and get better at, and what you're spending all that time on, I don't think you're going to look back too favorably on your life. And quite frankly, I don't think you're going to enjoy it in the moment, because I'm not a legacy guy. I don't think about, like, I am not at all worried about what I'm going to think on my deathbed, because hopefully my deathbed isn't a very long endeavor. So I would rather live my life the way that I'm enjoying it right now today. Like, I'll just tell you, I'm going to regret on my deathbed. I will for sure regret not having kids. 100%. Like, that is so patently obvious to me. And when people ask, like, aren't you worried you're going to regret it? Not even a little bit, because I would regret having kids today. And today, hopefully, is a lot longer, because you got a whole lot of todays than your deathbed. So to me, optimize for what makes you feel the most alive every day in the struggle, because the struggle is guaranteed. So that's where I like to spend my time, thinking about that, thinking about the things that are making me the person that I want to become right now in the moment. If I'm fighting with something at work, that I'm still having to learn the skills that I would want to learn even if I wasn't at work. And so, yeah, that's it. And I think that you can find that whether you're a linchpin employee or whether you're an entrepreneur. You just have to select the company that you work for or the company that you create very, very, very carefully.
As Michelangelo said, if people knew how hard I worked to achieve my mastery, it wouldn't seem so wonderful after all. And that's the thing about getting great. That's the thing about being an artist of such caliber that you're remembered for hundreds of years after your death. It is back-breaking work. It is a blinding amount of effort. It isn't about natural talent. That myth that some people are born with something that we celebrate so much is just that, a myth. You're born a lump of flesh. You can't hold your own head up. You may have predispositions, but that is a long way from actually crafting your ability until the point where it looks like magic. And that's the beauty of artistry, isn't it? That it's so unbelievable that you're more willing to believe that it was God-given, that they were anointed with it, than that they just worked their ass off. But the truth is, every one of the greats, no matter how much natural talent they were born with, they're remembered because they worked. They are remembered because they did so much work. Because in that work is hardship. In that work is difficulty. In that work is unbearable adversity. But it's in that adversity that the magic happens. And as Victor Hugo said, adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. So I know right now you wish you'd been born with some talent. You wish that all those dreams that you had, they were yours for the taking, that you didn't have to put blood, sweat, and tears into it, that somebody would hand you at least something in the beginning, that they would give you some start, some spark. That's where the monster's created. If you really want to get hard, if you really want to get tough, if you want to get great, if you want to be untouchable because no one can bend or break your vision of yourself, then you have to suffer. That's the way of the world. And as Florence Nightingale said, I attribute my success to this: I never gave or took any excuse. And that's the secret. At the end of the day, if you know what you want, it's only a question of whether you're willing to pay the price to get there. So ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price?
If you almost play a game with yourself and say, I want to see if I can change the energy of somebody who's being difficult. I want to see if I can stay compassionate, generous, kind, warm through all of this. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's really hard, especially if it's your kids or your parents or your spouse. Like, it can be hard. I get it. But as we try to be our best selves and present ourselves in a way that's going to get us what we want, which is a harmonious relationship, which is the ending of the difficulty, by looking at what we could do to change that situation, you will be shocked at how far that goes. Figuring out how to point out the scaffolding of a conversation is huge. Breaking things down into small pieces, being generous in articulating their stance, recognizing a collision of values and knowing, hey, if we can't agree on where we're trying to end up, if we can't agree on what the value is, this is going to be a fruitless conversation. And the sooner you recognize that's where you're at and that you need to actually talk about the value or just go your separate ways, the healthier all of your relationships are going to be. And then just lead with kindness and recognize that people that think differently, that's important. And we shouldn't want everybody to see the world exactly the way that we see it. And if we can come at things from that perspective of trying to understand before we try to be understood, whoo-wee, you're going to find that a lot of that difficulty just goes by the wayside. And that's how I deal with difficult people.
As Helen Keller said, optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. And that's the trick. It really is faith. It really is doing something even though you have nothing in the world telling you that it's real. It's something that you have to choose to believe in. It's something that is going to allow you to do incredible things simply because you believe that you can do them. But if you don't start with that optimistic belief, if you don't start by burning into yourself, by reinforcing over and over and over in your mind that things can and will work out, that your efforts are going to be rewarded, to believe to the core of your being that the harder you work, the more you're going to learn. The more you learn, the more you'll be able to do. The more you'll be able to do, the more you'll be able to manifest your dreams. But you have to start with that faith that that's real. Because it would be just as easy to look at the world and say that pessimism is the only thing that makes sense. It would be just as easy to look into the world and see only the negative things. But once you understand that you can choose to have faith that things are going to work, that you can believe in something long before you have the evidence for it, and you can believe in it because you know that's how the mind works, that we lead with belief. That's where humans generate their power. They don't generate it from seeing some evidence of something in the world. We generate our power by first believing that our efforts will be rewarded. You have to put that at the center of your being. And as Wayne Dyer said, be miserable or motivate yourself. Whatever has to be done is always your choice. So if you want to do something, recognize there's no obstacle holding you back other than what you choose to believe. And if you want to be miserable, it's going to be there for you. And if you want to be empowered, it's there for you. If you want strength, it is there for you. It's a decision. It's something that you decide to believe in, that you can get strong. And that ultimately is the ultimate strength, to believe that you can get better, to believe that you can become whatever you want to become. So choose optimism right now. Choose to let it fill you. Choose to feel it, to sit in that sensation that anything you set your mind to is possible. When you allow yourself to embody that, to believe it, no matter what anybody tells you, no matter how many people tell you that you're stupid, you're a failure, that you're never going to do anything, that you are going to believe in yourself. If you can do that, if you can choose that optimism, you can go anywhere because you realize everything you needed was in you all along. It was simply choosing to believe you could execute against it. So have that faith. Go out and do it.
Working from home offers quite a bit of distractions. One I didn't think I'd face is bored eating during the workday. Where do you think bored eating stems from? How do you curb this habit? All right, bored eating is all about dopamine. So what happens is you start doing a task. That task is difficult. It has a high cognitive load, okay? And when you think about the brain is about 3 pounds, and yet it consumes about 20% of your calories. So it is a tiny percentage of your overall body weight, and yet calorically it is wildly demanding. So thinking actually is hard. And so when you get into something and you're thinking about it and you hit that sort of either it's boring, it's difficult, it's forcing you to face your inadequacies, whatever. It's the antithesis of the dopamine reward that you would get if you just pick up your phone, or God willing, that you can go eat something. And eating is one, especially if you're wired like me, eating is one of the biggest dopamine rewards that you're going to get. It is truly a drug-like effect. If that's you, then you need to put in parameters around your eating. You need to remember that you have a goal, you're working towards something, and this is critically important to understand. Going back to construct your life, you should be pursuing a goal that matters to you. Okay, your goal should be exciting and honorable. Okay, exciting in that you're amped up about it. Even failing at that thing is fun. And I think that's one of the most important questions anybody could ask themselves. What could I do and love even if I were failing? Now, you're always going to prefer winning at something that you love over losing at something that you love, but there really are things in your life that are interesting enough to you. It doesn't have to be some deep passion, but they're interesting enough to you that as you pursue them, they give you more energy than they take. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have overhead in your life. We all have it. It's a great concept from Jeff Bezos that no matter how much you love your job, there's always going to be overhead. There's going to be some percentage of your job that you don't like. I never need to work again, and yet I'm running a company where 30% of my time, a full 30% of my time is shit I hate. I don't just dislike, I actively hate doing it. 30% of my time is stuff that's fine, it's important, it needs to be done, not necessarily thrilling. And then only 40% is stuff that I'm ecstatic about. But I'm so excited by what we're trying to build, and I'm so sustained by the 70% that's either fine, important, but needs to be done, maybe not the most thrilling, but fine, and the 40% that I absolutely love, that I'm more than happy to slay the dragons of the 30% of things that I hate and for whatever reason I'm unable to outsource to somebody else. So I've got this exciting goal. It's honorable. I'm trying to help other people is what I mean by that. So it doesn't just serve me, it serves others, which is a huge dopamine reward for a social animal. Okay, that's critically important. So when I have that impulse to stop doing the hard thing and to go get something to eat, and I have even found myself getting up out of my seat, I'm literally 3 steps towards the kitchen. I'm like, what am I doing? And I sit myself back down. So it is crazy how fast you can slip into autopilot, that there is some part of your brain that's telling you to pick up your phone and look at it, to check your email, to go get something to eat. I think everybody feels those distractions. Understanding that's your brain crying out for a little dopamine hit. You've probably trained yourself to do that either through frequent eating or through just training yourself to look at your phone constantly, which they are designed to take over that mechanism, to shorten people's attention span, to make you crave that next hit. And so we're living in this crazy world of digital distraction where we're trained to have this shorter and shorter attention span to crave that dopamine more and more. So now you're going to have to do things to unwind that. Rules around eating have been very helpful for me. So I eat 2 meals a day. That's it. Period. End of story. And I know when the day begins, exactly what I'm going to be intaking. So my calories are always planned out, except for Saturday. Saturday, I go pretty hardcore. Sunday, I don't even worry about calories, but I limit the options. Like I don't eat things with sugar on Sunday, but I do on Saturday. So having rules that are extraordinarily strict. In fact, here's a great name for you guys to remember around strict rules. Bright lines. I don't remember who coined that phrase. I think it's brilliant. So in your life, you need bright lines. What are things you allow yourself to do and don't allow yourself to do? And if you know, hey, this is what I'm allowed to eat through the day, that's it. Or even these are the times that I'm allowed to eat. I have very strict timelines around when I eat. So I eat my first meal usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I eat my last meal, brace yourselves, I eat my last meal around 1:30 p.m. And so I have a nice 17 to 18 hour window where I'm not eating. I like Jordan Peterson's idea of tell the truth or at least try not to lie. Sometimes there can be a truth that we leave unsaid because this is a momentary interaction where I would say kindness is the higher value than pointing out every flaw that we see or every bit of obnoxious behavior, because at some point it just spirals into madness to point out every misstep that somebody is doing. And so when I look at somebody that is being obnoxious, being rude, my goal is to shift their energy. How can I get them back into a place where they're feeling good, they're feeling warmth, they are in a place where they feel kind, right? Because most people, it isn't that they are incapable of kindness. And if they are, like, imagine how shitty that life would be. Somebody who never experiences kindness, joy, warmth, connection, that would truly be its own hell. So I'm not going to worry about pointing out every obnoxious thing that they're doing. And I would play a game with myself of how much joy can I spread? And in some ways, you are leaving a truth unsaid, which is that they're being unkind or obnoxious or whatever. But by trying to spread kindness, you're not lying. And especially if you share that value with me of wanting to just put as much good vibes into the world you can. And look, I'm not perfect. And there is no doubt that sometimes people are just like, God damn, like I just don't want anything to do with it. But that doesn't feel like me at my best. Me at my best feels like, all right, cool. Can we switch this energy around? Can we get them to soften, to feel that human warmth and a bit of connection? And can I mean, with a smile, you will be shocked how much you can change somebody's demeanor. So that's how I would flip it. I would just see how much joy can I spread even when people are being problematic to me. Now, that doesn't mean that I let people abuse me or anything like that. I don't. I imagine you guys can get a pretty good guess about what I'm like. I don't let people walk over me or be a dick to me or whatever, but I find it far more interesting to try to change somebody's energy than to get them to go, yeah, I am being a dick. That's just not interesting to me, trying to get them to sort of confess that they're the problem. I'd much rather hold myself accountable to, like, how much sort of emotional jujitsu can I do here? I think it is very instructive for people to ask the question, who's living my ideal life? And that doesn't mean who's making the most money. It means what person's life do you want to live? The real day-to-day grind of it. And when you identify what your dream job is, now we need to go about figuring out how we get that job. And so very quickly, a question about managing our ADHD and figuring out how to stay focused actually becomes a question of how do we get good at finding the right job? And so if you think about orchestrating your life, and most people live by the law of accident. I want to repeat that. Most people live by the law of accident. Don't let that be you, right? You bump into somebody. They know there's a job offering, or it's closer to where you live, or it's, easier for you with the kids, whatever. And so you bump into these things. It's like, oh yeah, cool. Oh, I'll make that little thing. And instead of designing your life, you end up just responding to sort of little bumps along the road that end up leading you down a path that was never a conscious choice. You want to sit down and map out, okay, we know that we need a job that meets certain criteria. And one piece of that criteria is that it allows you to be very physical and get that energy out. Okay, so take control of your lives. I cannot stress that one enough. Journaling is hugely important. Recognizing where you thrive, where you don't thrive, what are deal breakers. So it sounds like 8 hours behind a desk is a deal breaker for you. So map out those things, take very strict control of your life, and remember, this may be one of the things that has led me to have a career, a life that has certainly led to a tremendous amount of joy in my life and looks like from the outside impossible to obtain. I am an unreasonable person, and I set aside all of my lacking elements, all of my, that's a weird way to say inadequacies. I set aside all the things that I'm not good at because I know it's all a process. I can get good at anything that I point myself at, right? The only belief that matters, if I put time and attention to getting good at this thing, I actually will get good at this thing. So I just set all of that aside. Okay, cool, yeah, whatever. I'm not yet good enough to have the life that I want, my ideal life, but I'm going to get good enough. And from that, I plant a very unreasonable belief inside my soul, which is I can have any life I want. And now I just need to write out exactly what that is. I've handcrafted the life that I desire. And I know the realities of who I am and what needs to be true in order for me to move well through the world, right? As somebody who was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, I fully get it. And so I have tailored my life to that. Momentum is everything to me because I've got to always be moving. I've got to always feel like I can have tomorrow be wildly different than today. But I take responsibility for the fact that I have to build that. And it's not going to happen by accident. The life I would be leading if I led my life by accident would be radically different. It would not be tailored to the things that I want. So don't be afraid to want. Don't be afraid to spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about what you really want. And then don't be afraid to be unreasonable in accepting nothing less. I get it. I get that humans do dumb things. I get that humans can be hurtful. I'm not interested, though, in what my partner did wrong. I'm only interested in what I can do next time to avoid the same mistakes without diminishing the beauty that is a relationship. Now, I have a fundamental belief that the single greatest joy that anybody can have in their life is to share a life with somebody that they love and who loves them, that they trust and who trusts them. So I'm not going to give up on that belief because it went wrong one time, 2 times, 3 times, whatever. I'm looking at what I can control to make sure that I don't end up back in that situation.
What I really, really enjoy, in fact, I ask this of everybody, not everybody, I've asked this many, many, many times of people coming into the company. There are 2 choices before you. Choice number 1, you help, let's say 5 people, and they all know who you are. They would credit you with transforming their life. At your funeral, they would say, this man is the woman, is the reason that I have been successful. Plain and simple, I owe everything to them. They're crying, and it's like, you touch their lives, you touch their families' lives. Or would you rather affect 5 million people and none of them know who you are? Now, for me, it's not even a tough choice. I would rather affect the 5 million people and they have absolutely no idea who I am. At scale is all I care about. That's it. I am obsessed with doing things at scale. I've actually never taken the time to reflect on why I like that so much, but scale is what matters to me. Really helping a lot of people. That is the thing that I'm really driven by. I'm convinced that while virtually everyone you're ever going to meet, they will tell you that they want to do something great with their life. They'll tell you that they've got big dreams, they've got plans, and they're going to make it happen. But they can't take criticism. They're not willing to look at what they're doing wrong. They're not willing to admit that everything is their fault, but it's just a frame of reference. And if they would change that frame of reference, it would change everything. And as Tim Grover said, the only difference between feedback and criticism is how you hear it. Understanding the brain, understanding how we process data, understanding the way that ideas get into your mind and cause a chain reaction of emotions. If you can't figure that out and rise above it and not become a victim of your emotions, not become a victim to people saying something that knock you off your confidence, that make you feel insecure, that actually cripple your ability to perform because of how you have decided to hear something. And that moment of awakening, that breakthrough, that is the realization that you decide what to focus on. You decide what to hear and what to take away from something. Somebody can assail you, they can attack you, they can victimize you. But it's a choice as to whether or not you play the victim. As Winston Churchill said, criticism may not be agreeable, but it's necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things. In the pursuit of greatness, and you're still trying to avoid pain. If you really want to do something, if you really want to become somebody, then you've got to run headlong into pain. You've got to be looking for those things that make you suffer. You've got to seek out the pain. You've got to seek out the things that make you uncomfortable. You've got to want to hit that difficulty, because it is in those moments, it is in that bit of suffering, it is in seeing what you are not good at that is going to allow you to become great. And if you have to let it fill you with rage to really stand in anguish in order to force yourself to move, then stand in it. Do whatever you need to do in order to reach your goals. And if that's the motivation that you need, then embrace it and chase it. As Tony Robbins said, the purpose of pain is to move us into action. It's not to make us suffer. So in that anguish, in the excruciating pain, find no suffering. See the joy in it. Welcome it like an old friend. And the day that you can welcome your pain like an old friend, because you know, like a friend, it is taking you where you need to go. It is spurring you into action. It is pushing you to become something. And the process of rebirth, my friends, hurts. But whether you choose to suffer or not is your choice. Because remember Tim's words. The only difference between feedback and criticism is how you hear it. The only difference between pain and suffering is how you frame it. So it's your choice. It's up to you how you're going to move forward. But never for 1 second forget that it's a choice.
How do you deal with people that show irritation when you speak but don't address what their problem is? I love this one. Okay, so here's what I do. I call that shit out in real time. Now, I don't call it out like, yo, what are you doing? I call it out like, hey, let me know if I'm misreading, but you really seem frustrated. It is so scandalous. Nobody ever does that. Nobody ever acknowledges the elephant in the room. People feel like they can say something however they want to say it, and you're only going to be able to comment on the actual words that they say, which is bullshit. That's some weird convention that just isn't true. And if you take the time to say, hey, totally, I could be misreading this, but you seem frustrated. No, I'm not frustrated at all. You're coming across aggressive. And if you can help me understand why, because if there's something that I'm doing or saying that's upsetting you, I want to understand it. And if you're saying that not as a gotcha, but really actually trying to understand it, like you're trying to disarm the situation, you are more than prepared to point those 2 thumbs at you. You're more than prepared for you to actually have done something that you didn't see that might have upset that person, they might really have a legitimate grief. And if you come at it from that standpoint, and you're not trying to trick them, trap them, you're just actually trying to understand that desire to understand. And when they realize there's nowhere to hide because you're going to point out the way that something is being delivered. And by the way, I will throw people a lifeline. So when I say, hey, I'm really just trying to understand, you seem upset, frustrated, agitated, help me see, because if I did something, I would want to address that. And then if they keep demonstrating that they're angry, but keep saying that they're not, then I would just say, help me understand the level of aggression that's coming across now. Do you think I'm just misinterpreting it? Whatever. And so then we go down that path. Now, in a fantasy land, there's somebody nearby that you can actually pull in. And so at Impact Theory, we always tell people, don't go have one of these arguments alone. Grab another peer, or in the case of a company, somebody that you report to essentially moderate the discussion. So you could say, hey, if you think I'm misinterpreting the signal and that there is no frustration or agitation here, I'm perfectly willing to be told that I'm just misreading the situation. And so then if it's like they're having a hard time recognizing that they're being frustrated, if we were alone and there's nobody there to moderate, then I might say something by way of a lifeline like, is it possible that when I said this, that hit you the wrong way? And so you sort of pre-masticate the idea for them. Maybe you have an insight that they're unable to have, and recognizing that a lot of times people are angry, but they don't have the self-awareness to understand what's happening. So they're getting frustrated, they're angry about something, but they're not even sure why or what they're angry with. Now, as somebody who's had that happen to me, where I'm like, why the hell am I getting sharp all of a sudden? I have nothing but empathy and compassion for whoever's going through that. So again, I'm not trying to trap them. I don't want them to look bad. I'm going to help them navigate their way out of this. And I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm trying to understand. And if you go into it trying to understand, now the other person feels that. You can hand that olive branch, or you can say, hey, why don't we take a minute, go our separate ways, let's come back, rediscuss this, and I'll try to see if I can understand what I might have said that upset you, or to understand why I'm misreading you, or whatever. And if that's sincere and you're not just trying to trick them, then I think you will be shocked.
If Quest Nutrition and Impact Theory were to go out of business tomorrow and you were to lose all of your money and material possessions, what would you do? Starting from scratch, what are the first things you would do in the first 90 days? Oh God, this is awesome. Okay, so what would I do? Okay, step number 1, mourn. So honestly, like I would allow myself a period of mourning, and I would define that. Now, I'm not going to stand still during the mourning period, but I think the reality is you have to, okay, who am I kidding? I wouldn't do that. I would defer my mourning. I've been through something like this, so I know exactly what I would do. I would defer the mourning, and I would immediately I would make a list of all the people that were in the world. So unless I'm gonna assume for a second that Impact Theory went out of business, for reasons other than that the industry, I'll assume the industry hasn't imploded. That's a very weird way of saying that. So I'm going to go to the 10 people that I've already earned credibility with, that know what I'm capable of, that know how I think, that know my process, that like me, want to be around me. And I'm going to go offer my services to them. And I'm going to ask for either no money, if at all possible, if I can, my wife and I can sleep on somebody's couch or something like that. And in fact, I may send my wife to get a job that at least makes some money so that we can eat, so that I can then begin going back into the industry and delivering value. I think it's the area that I'm going to be able to deliver the most value. And I would aim to get equity. That's me. So that people understand, look, my business may have failed, but here's my vision. Here's where I think I can add value. I would go in and I would have such a freakish level of detail for what I would be able to do for their company, and that I would be asking for equity. Equity is a big thing for me. So I wouldn't worry so much about salary. I would just make sure that I was making enough to eat. My ego isn't tied up in the house. So as much as I love the house and I love all the worldly possessions, my ego is tied up in my ability to learn and my willingness to suffer. Like if you really want to know what makes me an egomaniac, it's those things. So why do I do an 11-hour Q&A? Because I know nobody else can do it. So, and it's just like every minute that passes, I'm getting more and more arrogant about it and feeling great. And it's not like an ugly arrogance. It's like a fun arrogance of belief in myself. So I'm going to go to them with a scary detailed plan about the way that I'm going to help their company. It is not bullshit. It's not fluff. I will really be breaking down how I can help their company so that I can go in and crush that meeting and say, look, you know what just happened. I will own my mistakes. I won't bullshit. I'll say, this is exactly what happened. This is what I learned. This is why I'm not going to make those mistakes again. And this is what I think that I can do for your company. This is why I think that I deserve equity. And I'm just going to go down that list. Someone is going to say yes. I would first go down everything that I want to do in the film industry. And if I don't get any bites there, then I would immediately go down food and nutrition. And then literally guaranteed one of those two areas, somebody would bring me on as an equity partner, because my pitch would be ridiculous, to the point where if all they did was take the meeting, their business would be better for it. So I hold myself accountable to that, to real results. I would be the best interview they ever had. I would be trying to give away every idea for their company that I have, because I know ideas are a dime a dozen and all that matters is execution. So they will be in the meeting thinking, oh my God, if this is what he's willing to do just to get like a meeting with us, what would he be willing to do if we actually brought him on and started paying him something? So, and again, I would throw my ask financially in the dirt. And I would say, look, I'll work at this for a year. And if Lisa's working and we can afford to eat, I would work for free. And I would say, I'll do this for a year. I have no problem. What I want is the equity. And then I would work my way back up. So yeah, I actually get excited answering that question, because if you can't face the loss of all your material possessions with excitement, it means that you don't believe in your abilities, and you need to spend time focused on your abilities. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's just true. But now it's become so common to say, and it's like every Instagram post, that I fear it's going to lose its meaning. Who are you spending time with? Because if you're spending time with people like you. You're spending time with people like me. I'm raising you up, or I'm just not going to spend time with you. So it's like now, if you get in a mix of people like that who are like, man, we'd love for you to raise up to this level. But if you don't, it's fine. But we're just not going to spend time with you. All of a sudden, that desire to belong to something powerful that you can see is going to lead you to your dreams. And I remember saying to my wife over and over and over, they are the surest path to my success. I don't know anything else. I just know if I can hang on to these guys, they're going to make me better. And so that was through all the years of being embarrassed and developing actually massive anxiety, because I was always behind. I was always the dumbest person on the phone. I was always the dumbest person in the room. And it was like, was I going to be willing to emotionally go through that to get great? And most people can't. So here's the thing. Now imagine, I'm not the only person they said, hey, this is a startup. You can have any job you want. I saw 12 people, maybe more, come and go over the years. They just couldn't emotionally deal with it. And so I remember thinking to myself, why is it that I'm able to do this? And the answer was I could self-soothe faster than anyone else. So I would get kicked in the face and I would do something really dumb. I'd be called an idiot, told how stupid I was. And then I'd just be like, all right, I need to recenter. And that just became my obsession. I need to be able to emotionally get back to complete neutral so fast that you don't even see it register on my face.
How'd you do it? How do you do that?
Literally practicing. So remember, at the same time I'm reading about the brain, voraciously, I'm reading about people that understand human behavior. I'm getting into cognitive science, neuroscience, like really going into it. So I'm reading all this stuff going, whoa, we're just a chemical processing plant. There are physiological hooks into these chemicals. So, hey, if you're mad, scared, whatever, but you force yourself to laugh out loud, you will change your neurochemical state. And you literally, your experience is the neurochemistry. So I was like, whoa, so I could be in a situation where I'm being berated or I legitimately mess up and it costs money and it's like, whoa, that's on me and it is nobody's bad but my own. And I realized that what most people do, their strategy is to deflect it. It's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes.
So I started thinking of this as a metaphor. People are throwing gold at me. They're throwing it really hard and I can put a shield up and deflect it, but then I lose that piece of gold. If I drop my shield and just take the pain, let it hit me in the head, then I bend down and go, this thing, which was me being stupid, there's a lesson here. And now I have this piece of gold. But the whole thing is I have to be defenseless. So I have to own it, I have to take it, I can't fight. If someone is like, this to this day, if our team is like, hey, there's something we need to point out to you, I'll do this. I square up to it. I want them to know, like, hey, I want to hear it. I want to know. Like, I want to be literally physically open. I'm not going to close down. I'm going to do everything I can to square off, to open myself so that they know I'm receptive to the criticism, right? Because that's the nugget of gold. What I know is it's going to hurt. It's going to sting. But if I can emotionally recenter so fast you don't even see that I went through something, now I can just process, how do I take this information you've given me and get better?
80% of my time I spend focused on the beautiful things that I want to create, the amazing things, the mission that I'm on, how I want to help other people, right? I talked about goals being exciting to you and honorable. So they uplift you and other people. And I try to spend as much time as I can there. And that's gotten me through a lot of difficult times to think about the people I'm trying to serve, to think about the way that I'm going to help people. We end every team meeting at Impact Theory with a connection to our community. So whether it's playing a video of somebody who's changed their life or reading a letter that somebody's written us about how the content that we create has moved them forward in some meaningful way. And they're beautiful and it's amazing and it feels so good. But there are times where I'm so fatigued. And there's a great quote by Vince Lombardi: "Fatigue makes cowards of us all." And there are times where I'm so fatigued, all the beautiful things in the world are not enough to keep me going. And I'm just done. I'm spent. I'm past the David Goggins 40%, where he says, when you think you're broken and couldn't possibly go another step, you're only 40% of the way there. Okay. The beautiful things will get me past that hurdle. But when you're actually 80% of the way there, 90% of the way there, really close to being fully spent, the thing that I lean on in that moment is the dark side. The people that want me to fail. The people that are on my list, as I call it. There are people that have tried to trip me up, that want to see me lose, that come at me, go behind my back, whatever. And I put them on a list.
And I never think about the list more than 20% of the time because that's a dark place to be. But when I'm really tired and I'm in danger of cowardice, I think about those people. And it's an ugly energy, but damn, is it powerful to say, I'm not going to let them win. I will, as David Goggins says, take their souls. And it's really powerful. And it's one of those things that I often get pushback on because it is ugly to say that I think about these people and I think about destroying them and beating them and outperforming them in every way and dunking in their face and doing better than them in life and watching them just get demolished by my performance. But it's motivating and it works. Now, if you spend too much time there, you slide into bitterness, you slide into anger, it's resentment, it's all about them. But man, let me tell you, if you get that balance right, 80-20, 90-10, man, it's really profoundly powerful. There is a reason that evolution has given you anger. There's a reason that evolution has given you rage. There is a reason that evolution has given you righteous indignation.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. If you want 10 more amazing rules from Tom Bilyeu, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Everyone takes the limits of their own vision for the limits of the world. Arthur Schopenhauer. There is all around you right now the reflections of your world belief.